And a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
And you're listening to another episode of
Coaster Kings Radio.
This episode is called Spilling the Tea, which is actually kind of like one of my favorite episodes to do. We haven't done one in a minute, but pretty much what we're going to do today is we are going to be diving into the Themed Entertainment Association's Theme Index report that came out earlier this year. And it is referring to the 2023 numbers because 2024 hasn't ended yet, so that doesn't exist yet. But we just haven't gotten the time to really do a deep dive into the entire theme park industry and the parks around the world and the trends and attendance and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And I'm very excited for this because I spent a lot of time making like 16 pages of show notes, which sounds very daunting and it's hopefully not going to be a crazy long episode. We don't know yet at the time of recording. But it's going to be kind of in depth. It's going to be trends, and I think it's like some of the most fascinating stuff as like a theme park and roller coaster nerd. Is to kind of see the whole world at large and see what's performing, what's not, what's going where it is. So that's really exciting. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk you through what this episode's going to look like. We're going to talk about the Asia Pacific market first, which includes, of course, all of Asia and then also the Australasia kind of area. Then we're going to move into the EMEA area, which is the Europe, Middle East, and Africa regions. And then we're going to move into Latin America and North America, aka the Americas. And we're going to be mostly looking at just theme parks and water parks. In previous episodes that we did this, like a year or two ago, we did it also with some museums in there. But there's so much to already talk about. And museum-wise, it's mostly China. Just like really big city museums. Like it's got crazy attendance and then some stuff in Paris. I don't know if it's necessarily enough for us to really talk about. So we're just going to focus on the theme parks and we'll start with some key takeaways from this year. Did you want to do some of the key takeaways, or what would you do them?
Sure. Hold on. Let's see. You did some of this stuff already. Reports usually come out the spring or summer of the following year, so we don't have 2024 until next summer. The report indicates that the industry across the board is pretty much back to pre-pandemic levels, similar and sometimes exceeding numbers of 2019.
Which 2019 is pretty much the metric all across the board for pre-pandemic.
It's sort of the barometer for like where business should be. I mean that makes sense. And I think economy-wise, 2019 we were in a pretty decent shape globally.
And then the top 25 theme parks in the world had a combined attendance in 2023 of 244.6 million guests, which is a lot of guests, and it's an increase of 45.9 million compared to the year prior. We'll dive into where these numbers are coming from a little bit later, because they're not necessarily, they're kind of coming from one region, but it's still a crazy increase, almost 46 million additional visitors in the top 25 theme parks alone. That's crazy. And then parks that continued to be spending during the pandemic, so parks that were building attractions and investing in their parks, kind of like looking at the parks long term instead of going straight into budget mode. They do tend to have greater returns and higher performances, but that's in most cases because there's also going to be a few parks we can talk about that do not showcase that. And then the North American market in general was the most inconsistent of all markets that we're going to talk about, with the slowest growth and the most decreases in attendance as well. And then the report also kind of highlighted that in 2023 the Halloween events kind of showcased once again that they revolutionized the industry and that parks are continuing to try and recreate that success with other kinds of events. Now, we actually just did an episode on that, and it's called Winter Wonderlands. It's the last episode we did prior to this, and it's talking kind of about how the market is now changing to every park wanting to do holiday events after the success of Halloween, stretching the season longer. More European parks are really getting into this, even though the weather isn't great. American parks, same story. So, of course, that is also confirmed by attendance numbers. If you stretch your season and you have an extra event, you're going to have higher attendance. And then the Asia Pacific market actually showed a 4% overall increase over pre-pandemic levels. So that just doesn't just mean from last year. The increase from last year is crazy. But just the increase in general is 4% over pre-pandemic. So if there was never a pandemic, it would actually be higher than it was, which is great. And then the strongest growth of attendance from European/Middle Eastern destinations comes from parks with a second gate, or parks that have hotels attached or any sort of on-site accommodation, which is very fascinating because it kind of confirms the fact that if you do build a resort of it, people will stay, and we'll dive into that a little bit as well. So these are kind of like general takeaways before we dive into each market. And we're going to start with Asia Pacific. And I think the best way to do this is to kind of just discuss the top 20 parks and their current attendance. Alex, you want to just go through the list?
Let me scroll down to the Asia chart. I was looking at the general. Oh, we've got United States.
Yeah, the Asia chart should be the second section.
It's down at the bottom, right?
Second section.
Yeah, Asia Pacific.
Also, everyone, if you wanted to follow along with this, I will be posting a link to this particular document. If you wanted to kind of nerd out a little bit, it'll be on the website, thecoastalkings.com. It'll be in the homepage of this particular episode. So on the homepage of the website, there will be an episode podcast page. On there, I will make sure that link is available to you as well.
This Asia top 5 is very surprising to me. Historically, the top 5, almost very consistently prior to COVID, was Magic Kingdom, Disneyland, and then the 3 giant Japan parks, the 2 Disneys and Universal. And this year, Universal Studios Japan shot up to the top attended park in Asia, which is a huge upset. It's the first time, I think, with the exception of maybe some of the COVID years where things were wonky within regions, different regions. I believe it's the first year under basically normal circumstances that Universal Studios Japan exceeded the attendance of Tokyo Disneyland.
Yeah, so I did have some notes on all these numbers in a little bit. I was just gonna go through the numbers first.
Yeah.
So I can do that real quick. So in no particular order, well, in a particular order, the 1 through 20, the most attended theme parks in Asia in 2023 are Universal Studios Japan, followed by Tokyo Disneyland. So Universal Studios Japan has 60 million visitors. Tokyo Disneyland at 50.1 million visitors, followed by Shanghai Disneyland at 14 million, Chimelong Ocean Kingdom at 12.5 million, Tokyo Disney Sea at 12.4 million, Universal Studios Beijing at 9 million, Hong Kong Disneyland at 6.4 million, Everland in South Korea at 5.8 million, Chimelong Paradise at 5.6 million, Lottie World at 5.1 million.
And that rounds out the top 10.
And that's the top 10. And then Zhejiang Fantasywild Dino Kingdom has 4.8 million, which is very high. Manyang Fantasywild Oriental Heritage has 4.6 million. Jingzhou Fantasywild Oriental Heritage is 4.6 million. Chengzhou Fantasywild Adventure has 4.4 million. OCT Happy Valley in Beijing has 4.3 million, which we went there this year. China Dinosaur Park in Changzhou has 4.3 million. Shanghai Haichang Ocean Park at 4.3 million. Taichou Fantasy Wildland in Taichou has 4.3 million. And Taiyuan Fantasy Wild Oriental Heritage has 4.2 million. And then lastly, the 20th in the list is the Shenyang Fantasy Wild Adventure in Shenyang, China at 4.2 million. So obviously we're going to discuss why you heard Fantasy Wild so much. We'll get in that in just a second.
It's a lot of names.
It's a lot of names.
I know, for you listening out there, that was a lot of names of parks
that you may not be familiar with. There's parks that I'm not necessarily as familiar with.
Yeah, we don't even know some
and we are
these.
Big China fans.
We've been to most of these and are familiar with some more, but then there's others on this list that I have no real concept of.
Which really shows the strength of that chain. But anyway, so Alex already said Universal Studios Japan is... First of all, what I really took away from this is that it's the only Universal park to ever be on top of their respective markets. So we look at all the Universal parks in the world and their respective markets that we're kind of discussing. The only Universal Studios Japan has ever sat on top of the attendance at any of them. From all the other attendance reports, they're pretty far away from the top. But the Universal Studios Japan right now is, or as of 2023's numbers, is the highest attendance theme park in all of Asia, which is crazy.
I would say that usually usually Universal does 30% less-ish.
Yeah, kind of like a second
30 to
command.
40% less. That would be true of the Beijing park in relationship to China, in relationship to Shanghai, and the U.S. parks in relationship to their... various Disney counterparts.
And of course we need to discuss the fact that the Chinese numbers are very high compared to the year prior, and that's mostly because in 2022 mainland China still had lots of restrictions on attendance because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that means that the attendance increased 164.2% for Shanghai Disneyland, which is a lot.
This is Shanghai Disneyland's biggest year.
And then 184.5% for Chimelong Ocean Kingdom, and 109.3% for Universal Studios Beijing. So they at least doubled, if not almost tripled their attendance for these parks.
Yeah.
Because 2022, there's so much of the time the parks were spent, were actually closed still. But it's also the first time that Shanghai Disneyland is also on top of the China game. So prior to this, Chimelong Ocean Kingdom was the most attended theme park in all of mainland China, and now Shanghai Disney has taken that crown.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like, Shanghai Disneyland is top 5 globally now, and Chimelong Ocean Kingdom is right behind it at number 6 for global attendance. Both of them narrowly beating out Tokyo Disney Sea, a park that hasn't seen the outside of the top 5 for the T reports for any normal fiscal year in a very long time. So,
admittedly, I do wonder how much of that, because 2023 is probably the opening of Fantasy Springs. It's kind of like people are waiting it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I don't think it affects theme park attendance as much. The whole waiting it out thing.
Yeah. I expect there to be a measurable bump for the following T reports because of the 6 months of Fantasy Springs operations for the year. And then really 2 years from now, we'll see the full effects of Fantasy Springs.
And one to watch will be Universal Studios Beijing, because Universal Studios Beijing, a relatively new park, has been rising in the ranks quickly, but its year-over-year attendance growth between 2022 and 2023 wasn't nearly as high as that of Chimelong Ocean Kingdom nor Shanghai Disney. And what's fascinating is that they're still 3.5 million away of even beating Chimelong into like the number 2 spot. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to kind of stick as the number 3 in China, or if they're going to be able to like get above that.
Yeah, I would say like objectively, Universal Beijing's numbers are good numbers, especially for such a new park, but not compared to the other Chinese parks, not compared to Disney and Chimelong, and then some of these parks that nobody in the West has heard of that are doing these incredible percentage jumps, like you said, like 200, 300% jumps. It's like really in context, Beijing's growth of 100% is modest. It's like straight. It's a standard trajectory, but it's kind of dwarfed by what some of these other parks are accomplishing. What some of these other parks pulled out this year.
But also have to note that Chimelong Ocean Kingdom is still the largest theme park resort in all of China. It has it has China's largest hotel. It is like its own kind of like resort, almost like the Walt Disney World of China, I should be saying. Like, you know, like it's highly successful. They just opened their second gate this year, so it'll be interesting to see how that's going to affect attendance, because now Chimelong Spaceship is open. They've got several massive hotels. They've got the Chimelong Circus, one of the biggest circuses in the world, and now they're going to add, they have the new Sky Ride, and they're going to be adding another theme park on the mountain. So it'll be very interesting to see where this is going, because while Universal is growing because it's new, it's not as established as Chimelong Ocean Kingdom is, where Chimelong Ocean Kingdom is now already working on its third gate, and it's really, it's a much bigger complex. So I think that the attendance number will be hard. I don't expect it to go down anytime soon. Let me just put it that way.
I'd be curious to see if the newly announced Beijing Haichang Ocean Park for the Universal Studios Beijing complex will have a measurable impact on Universal Beijing's attendance. I would expect them to do good numbers for themselves for when they open. The Shanghai park does very well for itself, considering just the amount of competition that a park with a brand that is being launched. It's not an existing brand; it's a new Chinese brand, and it's competing directly with Shanghai Disneyland. I'd be curious to see how the Beijing park, which looks like a totally different approach. It almost looks more like an aquarium. It looks a little bit more like the SeaWorld Abu Dhabi approach.
100%.
Where it's like a hybrid indoor park and aquarium, of course, to mitigate the attendance issues that come from being so far north as Beijing is. So that'll be an interesting one. It's that's a couple years out. Curious to see how the Universal Beijing Resort grows into itself with now having a partner gate, a second gate of sorts, but really a partner gate. In the resort complex.
And now what's also interesting is that when you look at the overall list of these parks in Asia and the top 20 here, the South Korean parks actually saw the slowest increase in attendance compared to other countries. Everland remained almost the exact same, and Lottie World only saw a small growth. So everything on this list, including the Japanese parks, saw a significant growth, except for the South Korean parks. South Korean parks pretty much where they were at. If anything, maybe a slight touch in attendance increase there. I mean, I would say Lottie World way more, of course,
South Korean
than
parks
Everland.
used to do top 10 global numbers. Like Everland used to be...
Everland's still top 10, it's 8.
Globally.
Oh, global,
I
sorry.
mean, Everland used to be in the top 10 attended parks globally.
Well, I was actually going to mention that in a way, is that Ocean Park is now dropped off the top 20 Asia altogether, which Ocean Park in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Used to be present on the list forever, and I still think that the Chamonix Ocean Kingdom situation is kind of what caused the diminishing attendance, but now it's not even on the list anymore.
It's sad. I would be afraid to... I would, hate to look at the numbers for Ocean Park. That graph would be a sad sight to see. I mean, the Hong Kong parks both were struggling in their own ways. Hong Kong Disney, though, was doing much better, but both of the parks were suffering losses of a similar percentage. And now it looks like Hong Kong Disneyland is pulling ahead. They've really turned a corner with some of the stuff that they've added. Everything that they've done really since the Castle project has been really well received and has gotten them the numbers that they want. And
Though we have to remember that the numbers that we're seeing here are not actually including the Frozen numbers, because Frozen didn't open until November of 2023, so the only thing they've gotten from that was maybe like a 5-week boost.
Yeah. Really just the Castle project and other beautification projects. All of this laying a foundation for the Frozen expansion, which, like you said, we're going to see Hong Kong, the measurable jump in attendance that Hong Kong Disneyland got, that they talked about at D23 this year, when they decided that they still felt confident going forward with the next sets of expenditures. That's what we'll see when this year's T reports come out. Apparently, they're very pleased with the Frozen expansion numbers. So
next I want to talk about the Festival parks, and they've really taken over the Chinese regional park market, and all the parks have been performing very, very well, reaching into the millions of attendance. I mean, we're talking top Six Flags parks have attendance that are lower than the attendance of some of these Festival parks, which is great to see, because the OCT, mostly well known for Happy Valleys, they were always kind of considered the regional park of China. They were the first to enter the market. And it was kind of especially I think in the Western enthusiast circles, everyone knows Happy Valley. But really, Happy Valleys aren't doing nearly as hot as the Festival parks are. So Festival parks, currently their strength really is, I think, in the high quality product. They really sell they have these concept parks, and they do tend to clone concept parks, but they're really high budget.
Yeah.
But then they have amazing phone apps, and we're able to use their phone apps on WeChat and Alipay, and it tells exactly when the ride is open and when the ride is closed. And I mean, it is very Western friendly, and it is the stuff that the big resorts do. I found the Fanta Wild app to be easier to use than the Universal Beijing app, like the mini apps. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see where that quality comes from. All the new Vekoma products in China that we're seeing are mostly on the Fanta Wild group.
Yep.
These are really spectacular parks, and unfortunately, our visit to our park in Fanta Wild, Ningbo, we were restrained due to a typhoon blowing through, so we didn't make it there. So we're trying to make it early next year. But either way, I'm very excited to experience some of this Fanta Wild stuff, because they are clearly all over the top 20 here. I mean, there's Fanta Wilds all over.
And the one OCT park.
And then the one OCT park, yeah. So Happy Valleys, their performance is not that strong, which we've experienced.
And it's obvious to me
ourselves.
Why Beijing is the
100%.
only park represented in this top 20, because our experience at Happy Valley Beijing was fabulous this past April. So obviously, whatever they've been doing, whatever they're going to do, it's working, and hopefully they keep doing it, and hopefully they can apply that level of success. They've been really ripping up the Shenzhen park. They basically have bulldozed the Shenzhen park, which is their original park. They basically started over with Shenzhen by closing off huge chunks of the park in sections, doing demo and rebuilding stuff. And so by the time that's all done, it'll be like a brand new park, I guess. So I'll be curious to see if they get the numbers that they're looking for by, turning that park inside out. But the Happy Valley Shanghai, for example, is a park that you would think could do some numbers with the way that Shanghai parks respond so well, the way that the market is so becoming for parks. But it's really not even part of the conversation of the Shanghai parks. You've got the two major parks that are performing really well, Shanghai Disney and Haichang Ocean Park. You've got Legoland under construction that holds a lot of promise and will probably see a few million people in its first year alone. I think the biggest difference between the two Happy Valley parks is just that the one in Beijing has such a great location that's very central to the city, and most of the Happy Valleys are not that fortunate in terms of their geography.
100%. I mean, it's easy on a metro line. It's easy to get to. It's
Happy Valley, Shanghai is just so isolated.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't think I've ever been to a Happy Valley park outside of school visits where it seemed healthily attended. So, the next park I want to discuss on this list is actually the Shanghai Haichang Ocean Park. I feel like this park really highlights the Chinese interest in marine life parks. Totally. There's the whole reason that, of course, Chimelong Ocean Kingdom is highly successful, and that the Chimelong spaceship with its giant orca exhibit is highly successful already. And they're constructing these marine parks everywhere. And Shanghai Haichang Ocean Park isn't that big of a park. Mm-mm. It's also not super convenient to get to. I mean, it's in the Pudong area of Shanghai.
True.
It's not terrible.
It's not.
Like, it's not like it has a metro stop.
It's not so much easier to get to than like Happy Valley.
Right. Exactly.
Right. People really are embracing this type of park.
This kind of park is so popular. These orca shows are full every single night. And they're building another park of this kind in Beijing. They're building another park of this kind in somewhere else. I believe Jiangsu.
The Haichang brand, which is a legacy entertainment park design, they're really moving it. Chimelong has proven themselves to be very successful with Ocean Kingdom, but for them, Ocean Kingdom is like they're building a Disney World type thing, and they're trying to pull people from all of China and around the world. Regionally, Chimelong doesn't seem to have any interest in moving into other cities. They're putting all of their eggs in the Zhuhai basket, which leaves companies like the Haichang Park brand, the door is open. Their Shanghai Park was a huge hit, runaway success. I mean, it's only like 3 years old, right? But 6 years old. 6 years old.
But you have to think about, just back on the Chimelong Ocean Kingdom thing real quick. The Chimelong group, I mean, they are kind of like the Disney. You're going to have big distances between parks because the whole point of it is that it's a destination. Yeah. The large hotel in all of China. It's right next to Macau. It's right by Hong Kong. I mean, it's in it's right next to the racetracks of Zhuhai. Like, it is in a very affluent tourist area. I mean, Zhuhai is well visited between everything that's around it. And so building kind of like the next Disney World there that's more focused on animals, because that is kind of the time that China is living in right now. Like, we had our SeaWorld Renaissance. What is it, like 60s, 70s, 80s? Now that Renaissance is happening in China. And I think that's why they don't need to build anything anywhere else. Because if you're in the metro in Shanghai, you see ads for Chimelong Ocean Kingdom. Yeah. You see ads for the Chimelong Space Station, and that's a good 2.5 hour flight away. Yeah. It's a good 7-8 hour train ride away. And you can see the ads for it. They're all over the place.
I think the Haichang parks have a great little niche there to attract the Chimelong the Chimelong Ocean Kingdom type of clientele in cities that they're already in.
And let's not forget, Shanghai Haichang Ocean Park was the first park in mainland China to ever display killer whales.
Orcas, yeah.
And so that is a big deal for them. And now they're only one of two, because now the only other park that has it is Chimelong Spaceship. So won't go into that too much. China Dinosaurs Park continues to perform very well as a standalone park in China. It's kind of one of those legacy parks as well. It's currently listed as number 16 in the list with 4.3 million in attendance. And I think it also kind of has to do with its proximity to the busyness of the rest of the Jiangsu province. And of course that the largest collection of dinosaur fossils, and I believe all of Asia, is located right there. Because Changzhou is kind of like the dinosaur capital of China. And so it's kind of like a destination as well. As well, other parks in the Changzhou region don't do that well. I mean, the Suzhou HB World is not like it's that busy. It's not like Joe World gets anyone, but Dinosaur Park, really, really busy. And they've already kind of mentioned the Hong Kong Ocean Park dropped out of the top 20, and of how Hong Kong Disneyland is now number 7. It's kind of like a testament to the success of Disney parks. And I can't wait to see what's going to be next year, because again, the 6.4 million figure we see here is prior to the World of Frozen attendance boost, which, I mean, we alone went twice this year with Frozen. So, and then actually, funny enough, this region does include Australia and stuff, but not a single Australian theme park made this list. Yeah,
Australia does not move the needle here, I don't think, but I'm sure their parks are lovely. They're just not. It's just not a lot of people being processed through there. That's all right. Moving on to water parks in this region. The water park lists are dramatically different than what the theme park lists. And I mean, that makes sense. Water parks are a much lower risk investment. They have much lower overhead. You can do more with a water park in like regions that maybe wouldn't be supporting a major regional theme park. So the parks that are having the kind of success in the water park department, it's a much more broad smattering of parks. And here Australia is represented. They have a top 5 performing water park for the region in Wet and Wild Gold Coast. However, none of the other water parks in Australia made the
I mean, overall,
top 20.
I don't know if I want to list every single water park, because I think, the actual theme parks are already kind of obscure enough. I don't know if like listing all these water parks.
I've only heard of a few of these.
Yeah, so I made a couple of like general notes about the list. Is the fact that this list, like Alex said, is much more varied for the region. So now we're seeing parks in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, China, Japan, South Korea. They're all in the top 20.
Yeah.
And but what I found very interesting is that while the OCT theme parks, the the Overseas Chinese Town Company, the Happy Valleys, those aren't performing that well. Their presence isn't that great in the top 20 for all of Asia. But then we look at their water parks and the Playa Maya concept, which they have almost every single Happy Valley theme park has a Playa Maya water park right next to which they're all kind of nicely themed and look kind of cute. But those seem to be doing a lot better on average because the Shanghai, Tianjin, and Wuhan Playa Mayas are all in the top 20. However, all of them the latter two have seen decrease in attendance. I don't know, OCT's is not doing so hard.
Beijing's is under construction. When we were there in April, it looked like it was almost finished. That opens. That will have a lot of attendance figures to show up.
I'm so sorry. Did you already mention the Chimelong? It's always sitting on top of the list.
Oh yeah, no. And then Chimelong Water Park, which is the attached water park to Chimelong Paradise. And for those of you who don't know, so Chimelong Paradise is actually the original flagship amusement park
/ resort
for the Chimelong group, and it's more of a regional styled park. Well, it started out quite small.
I'm going to interrupt if you're okay with that, because it's actually a big destination for them because they have the really big safari.
Yeah, I mean it is now.
It's not like a regional park.
It started out as one, and it kind of feels like one. When you compare it to Ocean Kingdom, there's like no comparison. Like there's a reason why Ocean Kingdom gets these global numbers, and Paradise really is more about attracting people.
I mean, Chimelong Paradise has 6 million annual attendance, sits in the top 9 of Asia. It's still a really high attended resort.
I guess that's true, but it's just it's not doing the global numbers the way that Ocean Kingdom does, and people wouldn't necessarily know. You might just assume that they were like close to each other, but they're really not. It's like Paradise is not even in the same like. I mean, how far is it by car? Like 3 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours?
They're in the same region. I mean, it's both in Guangzhou.
So Chimelong Paradise, the park does pretty well for itself, like you said. And you have the Ocean Kingdom complex, which is way south of it all. But the water park that is attached to the Chimelong Paradise Park is the real, like, attendance superstar of the world. Because not only is it the highest attended water park in the world, Chimelong Water Park is the highest attended water park in the world by an enormous margin. By they've got 2.8 million people annually. The next highest attended water park, which is Aqualantis Adventure in China, is 1.6 million. And
let it be known for those that are listening is that the Chimelong Group is the number 5th largest operator of theme parks in the world. This is the 2023 number, so it does not include any attendance for the Chimelong Spaceship, their 4th, I guess, park in what we're talking about. They also have, of course, the Safari, but their overall attendance for water park and the 2 theme parks combined, so the three gates here, is 36.1 million.
That's insane.
Which is for all these other groups in the list, which I guess we can do a little interruption here and discuss the top 10 companies in the world.
Yeah.
So in the list here, we have number 1, Disney Experiences with 142 million annual, Fanta Wild Group with 86 million annual. I'm rounding here. Merlin Entertainment with 62 million, Universal Destinations with 60 million, and then Chimelong Group with 36 million. And then followed by Happy Valley with 35 million, Cedar Fair 27 million, Six Flags 22 million, United Parks and Resorts, in other words SeaWorld, 21.6 million, and then Parque Las Lindas at 20 million. But just to kind of give you scope, all these chains have lots of parks, and if they don't have lots of parks, like Universal or Disney, they still have 6 resorts around the world. I'm talking 2 resorts, 3 gates. Chimelong Group, hands down, is a crazy example of like, for each square foot of entertainment, Chimelong is by far the most successful group in the world currently.
Chimelong being in the top 5 with 2 theme parks, a zoo, and a water park is insane. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Like pound for pound, park for park, there is not a chain that is more profitable.
And the crazy thing is, it drives me to go back in April now. And I'm like, okay, let's just go back. Because Chimelong is so impressive to me.
They really know what they're doing.
Like, you walk around there and it's like a breath of fresh air. You have the world's leaders, Universal and Disney, and they're around the corner. But then you have another leader that people don't talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And that's Chimelong.
The T reports could be what is the difference between somebody knowing what Chimelong Group is and what it isn't. And when you look at the numbers and you see that top 5 placement, a placement that it's so incredibly high relative to the physical footprint of these guys, it's really amazing. It's a very special achievement. I don't think they get enough recognition.
100%. And I mean, if you're looking at, Chimelong Water Park, I mean, it is almost double the attendance of the next busiest water park in all of Asia, Australasia. Like, it is that impressive that the Pacific, the Asia Pacific region, which is pretty big on water parks actually, because of its mostly very hot and humid areas, it is sitting at 2.8 million annual visitors, which is 1.2 million more than the next park, which is Atlantis Aquaventure in Sanya, China, which is a new version of the Aquaventure concept. That's just very, very fascinating to me. 2.8 million, that's more than the attendance of Phantasialand. I mean, this is just a water park. It's so impressive.
Yeah, it's literally, they do, like, to compare, Typhoon Lagoon and Volcano Bay are fairly evenly matched. Typhoon Lagoon is at 1.9. Volcano Bay is at 1.8.
Yeah, Galaxy Erding is at 1.9-ish, so that's the biggest in Europe.
And so that's basically every other water park in the world is not even capable, has not even exceeded 2 million annually. Like, they're getting closer. Like, Typhoon Lagoon will probably do it this year because it's so close. Although it's hard to say with the sporadic operation of that place. I don't know. It's kind of it's really a race for the European and American water parks to hit 2 million annually, and then you have Chimelong Water Park, who has exceeded 3 million before. In 2019, I believe their attendance was 3 million, and so they're still actually working their way back towards pre-COVID numbers. But I'm sure by next year, 2 years from now, that won't be a problem.
So I want to move into the European, Middle Eastern, Africa section of the podcast episode, just to kind of move it along. And we just discussed the top 10 operators, and Merlin was pretty high in there, and you're going to see in this list exactly again why. So we're going to start real quick with our top 20 European theme parks attendance in 2023. Number 1, no surprise, Disneyland Park at Disneyland Paris at 10.4 million. Then Europa Park at 6 million, followed by Walt Disney Studios at 5.7 million. Followed by the Efteling at 5.6 million, Tivoli Gardens 4 million, PortAventura just shy of 4 million, Gardaland at 3 million, Park Asterix at 2.8 million, Puy de Fou at 2.5 million, Legoland Windsor at 2.4 million, Alden Towers at 2.4 million, Legoland Bullen just short of 2.4 million, Liseberg at 2.3 million, Phantasialand at 2.1 million. So this kind of shows you that the Chimelong Water Park has 0.7 higher. It's crazy to me. Parque Warner at 2 million. Futuroscope at just shy of 2 million. Warner Brothers Abu Dhabi at 1.8 million. Heide Park at 1.7 million. Thor Park at 1.6 million. And Legoland Deutschland at 1.6 million. So this shows you that, again, a lot of Merlin parks in here. And then we'll just dive into kind of the analysis of this. So the first note that I have here, that of course Disneyland Paris remains to be the clear attendance leader in the market, and I think it's unlikely that's going to get changed anytime soon, even if they build that resort, the Universal Resort in the UK, and we'll kind of dive into some of the UK struggles with tourism in a little bit. That's also that the Disneyland Paris is a very well-established European resort that is again beating out attendance by 4.4 million to the next, just by one park. If you combine both parks together, it's almost like double the attendance, if not more than that actually. 2.5 times the attendance of Europa Park. So as a resort, they are so much bigger than anything else in Europe. I don't expect them to get dethroned anytime soon. And then Europa Park is actually the one that saw the largest boost of attendance in 2023, with an attendance boost of 11.1, which is really nice to see for them. And then the park with the biggest decrease in attendance is actually Liseberg. Liseberg saw a drop of attendance of 8%. Now the report kind of talks a little bit about the fact that the weather wasn't great for Liseberg for the summer of 2023, but also because of the incident at Gröna at Jetline, just the entire market of theme parks in Sweden was kind of affected by it, and that is also
that would explain why Gröna is not in the top 20.
Yeah, that's a potential contributor to the fact that even Liseberg, which is not even the park with the incident, has also dropped a significant amount in attendance. I mean, this is the only loss in attendance in all of Europe. So Europe has been trending up as well. This is the only loss, and it's a pretty significant loss.
For the top 20.
Numbers. Yeah. And while the numbers aren't as great as the Asia Pacific market in terms of percentage increase of attendance, the market as a whole is steady, and we're seeing in the most parks seeing around a 5% increase in attendance. So the overall market actually is also 5%. So it's the average of 5%. It's kind of everything is kind of equally growing. There isn't like really big standouts except for Europa Park. And then 40% of the parks in this market have not yet actually recovered to their pre-pandemic figures, even though they're growing up. It's steadily going back to where they all need to be. There's still a good number of parks in this list. I mean, technically 8 parks in this list that haven't actually beat their previous attendance records from pre-pandemic yet. You want me to keep going with the list?
Go for it.
Yeah. So next, I want to talk a little bit about the profitability. So the profitability in the European market is currently outpacing the attendance, which is good news because potentially profitability is back to pre-pandemic numbers, even if the park attendance is not. And that is not because of increased ticket prices, because as most of you guys may know, and I know it very well, is that Europeans do not like ticketing increases. The first thing they complain about is ticket increases. It's hard to convince the market to spend as much on a ticket as it is for Asia or North America, which is why the average theme park experience is also so much cheaper for admission in Europe. But parks have been focusing on improving the in-park offerings, mostly food and beverage, or entertainment, or anything else they can charge for to generate revenue, which is why profitability is still up. And then Disneyland Paris saw a combined attendance of 16 million between these two gates, which is a 6.7% increase for the Walt Disney Studios park, which is nice to see, which is currently in its transformation of becoming Disney Adventure World, doubling in size in 2026. The next area is opening next year in 2025. This particular number we're seeing here is mostly contributed to Adventure Campus. And they even did special drone shows for Adventure Campus. They did special hours where the park was open from 9 to 11 p.m. just for Adventure Campus. Like the rest of the park would be closed, and then Tower Terror and Adventure Campus would stay open 2 hours at the park closed. I thought it was phenomenal. It was really nice to kind of be there, and it was that was the only part of the park that was open. But, it was open late. Remember we did that a couple times.
It was great.
And of course, it was also the end of the 30th anniversary that dipped into 2023 into the spring. So all in all, Disneyland Paris has seen pretty nice growth. And then I do want to mention that the resort destinations in Europe, like I mentioned earlier, see the strongest performance in general, and that's because resorts with the second gate or on-site hotels see the biggest boost in attendance. The whole thing of people stay on resort to spend more time. Maybe they'll do 2 days. Usually in European hotels and resorts, the package includes park admission on the check-in day and check-out date. So you're automatically going to, even if you spend one night at one of these resorts, you're going to have potentially 2 visits out of a guest, which will help with your attendance numbers here.
This is a great segue into your bullet point about Park and Wonder, and I think that's what they need to do next.
I think so too. I was going to give a couple of examples of resorts that do have either a second gate or added hotels. Disneyland Paris, Europa Park, Efteling, PortAventura, Park Asterix, Fantasieland, and there's others. But yeah, go ahead, take it away. I'm on the Park and Wonder part.
Yeah, I actually, I don't even associate Park Warner with being a park that has such spectacular attendance. I think it just kind of gets overshadowed by PortAventura, which of course has huge attendance.
Yeah. And attendance isn't much off from Fantasieland.
But it's I don't know. I feel like they're right there. It's It's like they're ready. It's time. It is time. I mean, Hyde Park has hotels, and their attendance is not even as high. Thorpe Park also has a hotel or two, at least one. But yeah, Park Warner, that park, I'm so excited for their future. That park's been through a lot.
Well, we must admit that when we're looking at the Park Warner attendance, is it sat at the same attendance as pretty much Hyde Park and Thorpe Park previously. However, it got such a nice boost of 7.5%. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong Warner Park. No, never mind. Yes, it's been sitting higher. Yes,
yeah.
It's been sitting higher, but it did get a 7.5% increase, which is the second highest increase of any park in the European, Middle Eastern, and African region. And a lot of that is to contribute, as an attribute of the Batman Gotham City Escape Edition in 2023, which is a very high budget and one of the nicest investments that we've ever seen from Parques Reunidos for this park. In fact, since the park opened, this is by far its biggest investment. Outside of the initial construction of it. Yeah.
And Park Warner can do it. Like they are very well deserving of a resort experience because, like, not only do they have a massive park that does great numbers and has great rides, but they've got a water park. They have a water park. There's like parks with hotels.
But that number is not included in this attendance.
Yeah, and it's not even included. So like they've got numbers for a whole another gate. I mean, I'm sure it's modest compared to like some of the water parks we've talked about, but it's the fact that they have technically a second gate but no hotel yet means I feel like they are so overdue. They are so primed.
And there have been discussions for a hotel, like public discussions about the hotel, like within the management and stuff. So I'm expecting them to build a hotel. There's strong rumors indicating.
I hope they get inspired by Warner Brothers Abu Dhabi and the success not only of that park but of their hotel, their on-site Warner Brothers hotel. I feel like the market is there, the potential is there.
Well, that leads me into well, I guess I'll just skip ahead a little bit because I was going to discuss the Middle Eastern market just a minute and just finish up the European stuff. Let me just do that real quick so don't forget my notes here. But the biggest regional player, like we already kind of hinted at, is Merlin Entertainment with 7 parks listed in the EMEA top 20 for theme parks. Pretty impressive. The Legoland product, of course, has become more and more popular. We're seeing several Legolands under construction in Asia. Several already opened. That's going to be a big thing. The United Kingdom, in fact, actually sees the slowest growth of the entire market, and that is mostly due to the tourism of the United Kingdom being down and not having recovered to pre-pandemic numbers. The report itself cites that the VAT, retail export tax scheme, has deterred about 2 million tourists to visit in 2023, which has an effect on all aspects of the tourism industry, but also, of course, on the growth of the British parks. Now, none of them, of course, saw a loss in attendance, but we're looking at increases of maybe like 0.8 for Legoland Windsor, 0.8%, 1.3% for Thorpe Park. We're not seeing big increases or like even closer to 5% mark, which is the average mark for this market. So that is something to keep in mind there. Alton Towers saw 2.2%. That is the highest increase of any of the UK parks, I believe. Moving into the Middle East, the only park in the United Arab Emirates that is listed is the Warner Brothers World Abu Dhabi. Like Alex just mentioned, they have their hotel, which again plays into the whole fact that building a hotel on site is very much a good idea. We are expecting to see SeaWorld Abu Dhabi enter this list 100% next year. There's no doubt about it. Because as of right now, the only 7 months that SeaWorld Abu Dhabi was open in 2023, they saw an attendance of 1.3 million, which is quite close to that attendance of Warner Brothers World. And they were only open for 7 months out of 2023, which is why it was just outside of this list.
SeaWorld's about to obliterate.
Their attendance is, so far, it's considered the most successful theme park opening of any theme parks in the UAE. So I have zero doubts to see that into the list, and I will be honest, I'm actually quite curious about that park myself, and maybe someday we'll go, but I don't know when that is.
Yeah, the Abu Dhabi stuff's always kind of interesting. There's been shuffling going around with like the Motion Gate area.
Yeah, the managements and the projects and outdoor parks, indoor parks. Now, of course, we have that park coming to Gidea, which is going to be interesting to see if that's going to draw anything from that market.
That'll be really interesting to see how much of it is subsidized existence and how much of it is actually going to be supported by a market.
100%. And there's plenty of parks in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, for example, that aren't doing so hot, but it doesn't matter because they're subsidized. The whole
Most
point
of
it
them
is
are
just
not doing
for them
that
to
hot,
exist.
really.
Yeah. And then moving on to Africa is also part of this, and so in South Africa the only major attractions, in South Africa it's kind of the only part of Africa with real significant theme park or attractions, and there's one park. It's called the Ushaka Marine World, and I actually looked it up because I didn't know about this park. It's beautiful. It's kind of like a marine park and a water park in one. The lazy river goes right by the Dolphin Stadium, and so you can go there's the glass windows to the Dolphin Stadium. Kind of has that kind of like rusty shipyard theme in the tropics. Kind of made me think of Ratanga Junction in a way, which is no longer around. But Ushaka Marine World is by far the most popular theme park / marine world park, whatever, in Africa. And it's currently sitting at 1.5 million, so just out of the list. Also, because it's kind of considered... I mean, it is kind of a theme park, it's also a water park, so it should be in this list, but it's just outside of it. Which is why the report still mentioned it, but it's not in the top 20. Sitting at 1.5 million visitors annually. And then Gold Reef City is another major park in South Africa. It doesn't make the list, but they are expecting a boost in attendance in 2024 because of restrictions on visa entries and stuff in South Africa being more relaxed. So I'm not sure how much tourism, I'm not an expert on tourism in South Africa, but who knows, maybe Gold Reef City will see an increase on that. Water parks. Let's dive into those real quick.
So, of course, Galaxy Erding is number one.
Number one.
As usual. And then Aquaventure. So, Aquaventure is the only water park in the United Arab Emirates that made the list, even though it's definitely a hotbed of water. I was expecting Yas Water World to be on this list, actually. I hadn't really thought about it.
I think stuff, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not even actually sure which water park is that. Oh, it's Atlantis. It's Atlantis. That's what it is.
Well, I think Aquaventure is the one that has it's Wild Wadi.
Yeah, Wild Wadi is Atlantis Aquaventure.
That's right, because they built another one, and that's also in the top list of Asia. They built one in Asia now too, in China. Yeah, that's right. Okay, please continue.
And so the Atlantis the Atlantis Palm Water Park, attached water park, is number 2. But yeah, there's a lot of great water park activity in the Emirates. As like you said, Wild Wadi is a huge water park icon. That's a water park where a majority of the attractions are accessible through various little rivulets and estuaries that involve just like guiding your inner tube into different paths and basically exploring the park's attractions without leaving an inner tube. They've got some tower slides and stuff too, but the whole concept, the Wild Wadi concept, is like really cool and unique, and I'm still waiting for that to make its way to Europe and the United States.
Another nice thing I wanted to actually say about this list is that I think most of our listeners will know a lot of these water parks. And for this particular region, they only did the top 10, not the top 20. So I was going to list them real quick. Number 1, Terma Erding in Germany. It's followed by Atlantis Aquaventure in Abu Dhabi. In Dubai. Terma Bucharest in Bucharest.
Huge surprise. I would never think that anything in Bucharest
big
would
increase
be
though. 26.7% increase
numbers.
in
That's
attendance.
Amazing. That is a huge accomplishment.
And then Aqua Palace in Prague, followed by Tropical Islands in Germany. It makes sense. Siam Park in Tenerife, which I'm surprised it's not sitting higher, because that's like kind of one of the more spectacular water parks in Europe. Rulantica sitting at number 7, and then Aqualand Morovia in Czech Republic, followed by LaLandia and Bill in Germany, which must also feed off of the original Legoland.
Bill in Denmark.
Sorry. Bill in Denmark. It's been a long day going through these numbers. And,
it's okay.
And then 10 is Netzebad Osnabrück, which kind of surprised me because I lived really close to Osnabrück for a long time, and I actually never heard of this place.
Is it new?
No, maybe it's new. I need to look that up. This park, but so it's some familiar faces like Atlantica, Siam Park, Terma Erding, Aquaventure, Tropical Islands.
I feel like Aquaventure is going to take it next year. Galaxy Erding has been sitting at number 1 for as long as I can remember in the European water park market, and now Aquaventure is gonna tear it up, I think. And I bet it would open the door for the other 2 major water park players in the Emirates to also climb up the attendance ladder. I'd be curious to know what the attendance is for those parks. given the circumstances.
And then I think we're ready to move into the Americas. We're gonna start with Latin America. Actually.
We must.
We're gonna do a little top 10 Latin America first. I'll just name those out. We have Beto Carrero Worlds in Brazil with 2.8 million in attendance, followed by Six Flags Mexico at 2 million attendance. Parque Sarets, if you pronounce it that way, in Cancun at 1.7 million. Hopi Hari at 1 million. Parque Mundo Aventura in Bogota at 1 million. Fantasialandia at Santiago at just below 1 million. Mundo Petapa at Guatemala City at 9.9 million. Parque Nacional del Café, which is in Colombia, is sitting at 0.85 million. Parque de la Costa in Buenos Aires sitting at 0.6 million. And last but not least, El Salitre Mágico, also in Bogota, sitting at 0.6 million. So, of course, all these numbers are quite, like half of these entries, the last 5 are all below 1 million, and then the top 5 are sitting anywhere between 1 million and 3 million. It's not, of course, crazy attendance, but the T report here did separate the two, so we'll do a quick little dive into these parks. There's not much to discuss over here because one thing that stood out to me actually is I didn't realize that Colombia had such a theme park scene where there's 3 parks in the top 5 here are in Colombia. Making a note for myself. And of course, Beto Carrero World sits on top. No surprise there. I think it's kind of like one of the better, if not the best known Latin American theme park. Six Flags Mexico, I could have actually seen also be number 1, but it's number 2. But it's significantly lower attendance actually than Beto Carrero World. All parks in the top 10 did see significant increase in attendance, ranging from 13.1% lowest all the way to 35.1%. So the lowest increase we saw was 13.1, which is still a pretty decent increase. Highest 35.1, and the 35.1 increase was seen at El Salitre Mágico in Bogota, and then the other 35% increases were also both in Colombia. So Colombian parks are all doing very well. And then that's pretty much all I want to discuss here. Except for
that one at the 35 point El Salitre Mágico. If you're wondering why they had a 35.1% attendance boost, I mean, like you said, all of the parks are doing well. The Skyrocket 2 clone from Bosque Magico went to this park in Colombia, and
that's a nice addition for them.
It's a great. I was actually looking at this park last night. They've got a nice collection. They've got one of those Soquette double loopers. They've got an Aero corkscrew, like a classic production model corkscrew. Now they have the Skyrocket 2 clone.
And one thing I wanted to say is that, again, I'm still not sure how to pronounce this, but Parque Scaret and Cancun, which is part of the larger resort complex with like all-inclusives and stuff, I mean, 1.6 million for that theme park. It's a nice indicator of like how well the Cancun market's doing. Cancun is such a big tourism market. It's pretty crazy.
And the Parque Nacional del Café is always beating the odds because they announced another roller coaster.
That's right.
Just recently.
Wasn't it almost complete? I think it's just completed actually. You're talking about the inverted Gerstlauer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's already completed. And of course, they're home to Zambezi Zinger. Zinger was moved over there.
They have
it's
Worlds
on
of
the
Fun,
list.
Zambezi Zinger. They also have a Gerstlauer Eurofighter and a Gerstlauer family coaster of the Fire Chaser Express, Pegasi Express, Wakala, Pedigree, and now a Gerstlauer family inverted coaster that seems to have more in common with the inverted indoor coaster at Yomiuri Land than, like, say, the one in Tusenfried. Because it's not a launch coaster and it doesn't have inversions. But it looks very nice. It kind of has that track style. And it's got trains, whereas the invert in Yomiuri Land has, like, little 4-passenger gondolas.
And then let's move on to North America, which will be the usual biggest conversation. We are going to start again with doing the list. And this market I'm very excited to talk about because, like North America in general, HubMads Express, we're going to start with the top 20. Magic Kingdom sits at number 1 with an attendance of 17.7 million. Disneyland sits at number 2 with 70.3 million. Epcot sits at number 3 with 11.98 million, so pretty much 12 million. which is quite good. Disney's Hollywood Studios sits at 7.3 million, followed by Islands of Adventure at 10 million, California Adventure at 10 million, Universal Studios Florida at 9.8 million, Universal Studios Hollywood at 9.7 million, Disney's Animal Kingdom at 8.8 million, followed by SeaWorld Orlando at 4.3 million, Knott's Berry Farm at 4.3 million, Cedar Point at 4 million, Busch Gardens at 4 million, SeaWorld San Diego at just shy of 4 million, Kings Island at about 3.5 million, Six Magic Mountain at 3.4 million, Hershey Park at 3.3 million, Canada's Wonderland took a big dip and sits at 3.2 million now, Six Great America at 3 million, and Six Great Adventure at 2.5 million. Let's dissect all the negatives, because there's lots of negative numbers in this list.
The biggest thing standing out to me is at one point, like, Animal Kingdom was the second most attended Disney park, or second most attended park in Disney World, and now it's back down to number 9 in the country, and obviously number 4 out of the Florida Disney parks.
I think, first of all, Animal Kingdom had a window pre-pandemic where they were open much later, because when they added Avatar and the Rivers of Light, it was really one of those things where the park was open 2-3 hours longer a day than it is now. And of course, the new exciting edge of having Avatar is kind of worn off. Now we have lots of other stuff in there. So, but I will say that the North American markets are heavily affected by the Orlando numbers, given the sheer amount of visitors to the Orlando parks each year. And of course, due to overall Orlando numbers being down, which we'll discuss in a minute, partially due to the international travel still not being back to pre-pandemic numbers, the overall American number is also down. In fact, the overall attendance increase for North American top 20 parks for 2023 was only 3%, which is much lower than the other markets we discussed. 78% for the Asia Pacific market, which is crazy, and then 5% for the European market, only 3% for the North American market. Overall capital expenditures have increased, however, across the board. Example here is the SeaWorld Parks Entertainment, now known as United Parks Entertainment, spent about 6 quarters in a row with record spending into adding additions to the park and improving their parks. Has the overall experience improved? In my opinion, not really, but they have been spending money. Six has a strategy to that most affected and increased their 2023 numbers, included lowering ticket prices and focusing on season, like new annual pass kind of products, which Six Flags is no stranger to like giving away the gates, and I think they have once again fallen back on that in 2023 as well, but it has definitely worked out for them. And then the report also indicates that weather events in both California and Texas contributed to lower than expected attendance numbers for parks in those regions. 2023, there's only 2 major chains in all of North America that actually had portfolio-wide attendance gains. That's just Disney and Six Flags. Once again, all this conversation is prior to the Six Flags and Cedar Fair merger, because that happened in 2024. So when we mention Six Flags, we mean Legacy Six Flags here. It is very interesting to me that only Six Flags and Disney were the only 2 chains to see portfolio-wide attendance gains. That is almost shocking.
Universal's numbers are very interesting here, and I think, well, there's 2 things that I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about how Islands of Adventure finally got its flowers this year. I would always ask myself why Universal Studios Florida had higher attendance than Islands of Adventure. Horror Nights is the answer. And now, but with the combination, the 1-2 punch of Hagrid and Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure, the park has finally pulled ahead. The attendance figures now finally reflect the superior, frankly, vastly superior Universal Studios or like Universal Orlando Resort Park experience in Islands of Adventure. So much so that even the thriving Halloween event market that Universal Orlando pretty much has the most iconic member of, even that alone could not save the attendance of the studio park when things are not Halloween or Christmas or Mardi Gras. That place... Go ahead. You go ahead.
So as a whole, Universal saw the biggest attendance hits of any park in North America, of any resort in North America. Both of their parks had a decrease in attendance of 9.3%. I mean, that is almost a tenth of their attendance dropped. That is about 1 million less visitors for each park in relation to their 2022 numbers. That's 2 million total less capacity. We haven't even discussed Volcano Bay yet. So every single park across the Universal Orlando Resort saw a decrease in attendance, and we're looking at pretty staggering numbers. And it isn't just the market; it is the market to a degree. Yes, I do want to, of course, say that, like we discussed earlier on, the Orlando parks have the biggest influence on any region. Their numbers dictate the rest of the numbers. They pull or add to their numbers for sure. But when we're looking at some of the decreases we're seeing here in Florida, the biggest decreases by far are still the universal decreases. So I do want to kind of discuss the drops in the market. The biggest drop in the whole market, looking at North America here, is that Canada's Wonderland dropped by 14.2%. Taking by far the biggest hit of any of the top 20 parks when it comes to the percentage. Of course, losing 9.3% for Universal is still an overall larger loss in numbers of people. Followed by Busch Gardens Tampa having a drop of 1.3%. SeaWorld Orlando a drop of 2.5%. Disney's Hollywood Studios a drop of 5.5%, and Disney's Animal Kingdom at a drop of 2.8%. Now that is just mostly Florida parks you can see here. You have Busch Gardens Tampa, SeaWorld Orlando, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and Disney's Animal Kingdom. And then Canada's Wonderland is another outlier there.
If you're wondering why Hollywood Studios attendance dropped, it didn't really go anywhere. It just went to Epcot.
Yeah, so
a 20% increase.
Yeah, I have a more in-depth number situation. I did some math on that in a little bit. But yes, that's pretty much where the attendance went. All major California theme parks did see capacity increases, which is nice to see. I feel like it may have also kind of had to do with the fact that 2022 was still kind of a COVID world in California, kind of how it was in China too. And they had but even though they had a really bad winter in California for 2023, all parks saw attendance, with the biggest attendance increases being Universal Studios Hollywood at 15% increase, SeaWorld San Diego at 13.8% increase, and Magic Mountain at 13.6% increase. And well performing major chain parks in the United States also include Cedar Point with a 17.6% increase, sitting at $4 million. Six Flags Great America at 18.3% increase, sitting at $3 million. And Six Flags Great Adventure with a 16.1% increase, sitting at $2.5 million. It is still amazing to me that, I mean, I guess Magic Mountain is more year-round operations, but Cedar Point is, of course, on top of that, and then you got Magic Mountain, and then you have Great America.
Cedar Point's attendance boost is impressive, considering they didn't really do anything in 2023.
Yeah.
Like, the boardwalk was new.
But you know what? Neither did Great America. I mean, both those parts. I mean, Great America's at 18.3%. I think that region, just as a whole, like the American Midwest, discussing Cedar Point and Great America, they're both considered Midwest, right?
Yeah.
So that, I think, just saw more local spending again post-COVID. And then Great Adventure, just like most regional parks in America, did pretty good. United Parks, Six Flags, and Cedar Fair all had about equal presence in this top 20 of attended parks in North America. United Parks having 3 parks, Six Flags having 3 parks, and Cedar Fair having 4 parks making the list. Again, it's all pre-merger. And as expected, the entire top 9 of North America is made up of Disney and Universal parks, with only Universal's Islands of Adventure making it into the top 5, and the rest all being Disney properties. The biggest growth of the entire North American market was Epcot, and it leads me into the point that Alex already started hinting at, is that yes, Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom both saw a decrease in attendance. However, Disney World as a whole still saw an increase of attendance by nearly 2 million visitors. So like imagine the entire attendance of Phantasialand, they saw that kind of increase still at Walt Disney World for 2023 because Epcot saw such a crazy rise in attendance. Which I guess I don't necessarily want to put it on Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think it may very well be the reason. Because if you're looking at, okay, so it opened in summer 2022, the boarding group thing was kind of chaotic, and then you have an overall increase in attendance in the resort, but now the new hot ticket, the virtual queue, you have to go to this park in order to get either your virtual queue 1 p.m. or you have to make your park reservation to go to Epcot to get your Guardians of the Galaxy virtual queue at 7 a.m. So now everyone is forced to at least step foot into Epcot, and of course the majority of people want to ride the big new exciting roller coaster. So I think I think 2023 is a clear example of like when you build a ride and you can really shift your internal focus around, and people have just been attending Epcot a lot more. And I think that I really do think that Guardians of the Galaxy makes up for the vast majority of that. And we cannot forget, we also have Ratatouille. So between those 2 rides, you have so much. I can't believe I almost forgot that ride. You have so much of need of an attendance. You got the family ride, you got the roller coaster. You're gonna spend more time in the park. You may want to do 2 days. There was a moment where it was virtual queue for Rat as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all in all that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it still attracted 2 million in additional visitors. And not to say that they all came from Universal, but Universal lost 2 million visitors in 2023. So it's an interesting balance. It is not, it's not a complete market shift. There is a shift in a market that's negative in Florida, but clearly there's still a property that's performing the way that they wish to have performed all along.
It cannot be understated the effect that Cosmic Rewind has had on the resort.
Yeah.
That ride overnight became the sweetheart of the operation in a way that even like Rise of the Resistance did not achieve this level of like unilateral worship and praise.
But I do want to mention also that 2023 did also bring us Tron, and Tron opened in April 2023. So we have a lot of this 2 million, and of course there's a 4.7% increase in attendance for Magic Kingdom. I think there's also a significant part of 2 million that needs to be attributed to Tron.
Yeah,
and
Tron
of course,
was the cherry on top. That was like really the victory lap for
and
what
Ratatouille
was
a little bit.
going
3 major
to be
rides
for them. A great fiscal year for 2023. A great summer 2023 for Disney World was just huge because they were really attraction-wise. They were finally firing on every cylinder.
What did Universal do for 2023? There wasn't really anything there, was there?
Because they're fucking around with Minions and shit.
Yeah,
they don't.
these terrible
Universal's
little
not,
additions.
and it's fine. I think it goes without saying that some of Universal's lack of it. I mean, I've heard enough people just that I know personally that said that they didn't do Universal this year because they're doing Epic, or last year, for that matter.
Also, we have to consider that Universal's hours, I guess, not the same. I think
it's actually going to get worse before
Universal
it gets better.
frequently closes early before SeaWorld or the Disney parks do, which I think is kind of... I mean, they make their money what they do because their average ticket price for Universal is still the highest of any park in Orlando. So I'm sure they make their money the way they want, but attendance-wise, it may be more restrictive. And then I think you are right. I do think once the 2024 reports come out, which I cannot wait, I'm already eager. We're going to probably start the next season with that because hopefully when next season
time we'll
starts...
probably do the episode right after they come out.
Yeah, so I am very curious about that because there's no hiding that the sales are down for Universal. I mean, Universal sold passes at regular prices and now introduced like an unlimited ticket option a couple months ago. That was until the end of the year for local residents. I mean, we're getting to the point where they're practically giving away a season pass for $99. That is not called a season pass.
I mean,
annual pass.
Studios opens half the park an hour later.
I know.
That is the entire.
I don't know if people
bowl.
realize how tragic the situation is. In an effort to conserve operational costs, and because it all needs to be shifted to Epic, which is above budget, because everything is always above budget, right? And I get that. But yeah, I think these numbers don't lie.
I would not be surprised. Universal's numbers are either going to stay the same for 2024, or they're actually going to be worse.
I think they're going to be worse.
I think they might be worse. It's
from everything I've heard from people inside the industry, it's not necessarily
weirdly dire. The lack of lines and stuff, lack of overall attendance. When Velocicoaster opened, and then when did that go on Express Pass? That was 2023, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Mm-hmm.
And then I remember thinking, well, there goes the neighborhood. I'll never want to stand in line for a Velocicoaster ever again. The line would, once they did that, it shot up to 90 minutes
on busy days,
daily.
it's so annoying, but yeah.
But now it's it kind of settled. It kind of went back to the way that it was. Now, even with Express Pass, on the off-peak days where I'm wandering around the park on a random Tuesday, in 2023, you could still expect a 75-minute queue for Velocicoaster on a random Tuesday because of Express Pass. And now it's 45 minutes on the same kind of day. I just think attendance figures, it's just palpable. It is palpable that there are fewer people in the Universal parks this year relative to last year, and then in turn fewer that last year relative to the year before, and so on. There was a definite boost for the resort-wide attractions that were added, and obviously a relative boost for Islands of Adventure compared to Studios Florida, but the resort adding Hagrid and Velocicoaster was a good boost for the resort as a whole. And now that has kind of been put on pause while people
Also,
wait
post-pandemic,
to go to
Universal
Epic.
was the first to open up without reservations, and I think allow larger amounts in. So, of course, their rebuild since the pandemic was rather quick, and maybe 2023 really kind of shows that, that has definitely already plateaued. And I do think, and this is a conversation for a whole other episode, but I do want to kind of throw it in there, is that when Epic Universe opens, people are really over here like, oh, Epic Universe, people are going to go there instead of Disney. I think there's still room for Disney. Disney's still going to have, I think, great attendance as usual. I don't know how much it's going to dip into the market. It's also not necessarily going to bring extra people to the market. I think it's just going to shift things around. So it'll be very interesting to see the numbers for 2025 as well. We'll have to wait a long time for that, of course.
Yeah.
But then Universal's going to be manipulating their own numbers, because if you look at it right now, the only ticket sales you can do for Universal is if you want to go to Epic Universe, you buy either a 2 or 3 day ticket a 3 or 4 day ticket package that includes 2 days or 3 days at Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida, or even maybe Volcano Bay, either park hopper or not, and then you have one singular day at Epic Universe, and you can park up on that day that is just your day. One entry, one exit only, right? Of course, those numbers are going to be manipulative. If you're telling me, Alex, for example, that a lot of people are waiting to go to Epic Universe, right now the only way to guarantee that they're going to even get into Epic Universe when it opens is to buy that whole package that includes 2 or 3 days at the parks that they don't necessarily want to be at. So now you're going to see numbers coming in that are going to be not necessarily true, I don't think, because people are going to go to those parks because the only reason they're even there is because of Epic. At the same time, attendance
or they burn the tickets, like burner tickets, and attendance might be down, but revenue might be up because of the profit margins.
That is very true. People may spend half days instead, half days at the hotel.
That goes.
But attendance is attendance. We won't be able to really tell.
That also goes for how, like you said earlier about how like Universal closes their parks earlier. Universal has a much lower overhead because of their shorter hours. So even though their attendance is lower, their profit margins in some ways are really strong, because they'll get your money. They'll get you at the gate and then close the park at 6. Disney will charge about the same amount of money and close the park at 10, which attendance is what it is, but ultimately Disney is spending more money. Disney is investing more money back into your ticket that you bought by being open later, whereas with Universal, it's like, well, you're here, you got in, attendance is down, you wrote everything, it's 6 o'clock, like, time to go home.
Yeah. And then to kind of round off the North American conversation here is that the total North American attendance was relatively the same between 2022 and 2023. Like, looking again only at the top 20 parks in this list, that the attendance in 2022 was 140.5 million across 20 parks, and now it's 145 million. So not much of an increase. Again, we were discussing kind of 3%. But this is the only market where we saw repeated losses in attendance between 2022 and 2023, which I found very fascinating. It's definitely not as stable of a market as the EMEA market or the Asia Pacific market is. And now let's talk about water parks. Water parks, please hold. Please hold. Alrighty, let's talk about water parks here in North America.
Am I the only one that feels like the T report is kind of difficult to navigate?
Sorry, just because I'm not going in the same order.
Well,
I'm the one that designed this
but
order.
But even then, I was like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe
so I don't want to talk about the water parks too much because, first of all, I think the theme park should be the focus here. We spent a lot of time already discussing theme parks.
Also, American water parks suck.
And there's only 3 water parks in all of North America with attendance over 1 million. So there isn't like these water parks. On a global scale, these water parks aren't significant. They're glorified regional pools that pull in lots of money. So I'm going to just do a...
basically.
I'm going to just not discuss even Latin American water parks. We're just going to focus on North America. And I've got a couple of notes on these. I won't be talking too many numbers. Typhoon Lagoon, Universal Volcano Bay, and Aquatica Orlando all make up the top 3, but they also lost attendance. So the market was more stable, supposedly, according to the report. Six Flags is notably the one that integrated the water parks into their portfolio more strategically and actually had a boost in attendance. So if you look at this list of water parks, you have a lot of Six Flags water parks in there. You've got Hurricane Harbor Arlington, Hurricane Harbor New Jersey, Hurricane Harbor Phoenix, Hurricane Harbor LA, Whitewater Atlanta. Those are all in the top 20s. That's pretty good. And Six Flags actually introduced 6Bay, which is an RFID waterproof wristband that comes at the Hurricane Harbor water parks that you can use to link with your credit card, and you can just buy stuff it's genius. It's kind of like a Tapu Tapu. It's very smart. I think it's a good idea for Six Flags to be on that kind of game because this way it takes away the whole BS of having to get your wallet out of the locker. You know, you just pay for everything a la carte as you kind of go throughout the water park. It's very smart. So they had a good increase in revenue as well. The overall attendance for the top 20 water parks in North America is 30.7 million, which is up 1.1 million from the year prior. So overall water parks did go up in attendance, not by very much. And a few notes regarding the water parks here is that there are a couple of parks that noted a decrease in attendance. Again, mostly Florida parks, Orlando parks that are dealing with this. Typhoon Lagoon, Universal, Volcano Bay, Aquatica, and Discovery Cove are all showing a decrease in attendance. Biggest decrease being Aquatica 7.2, which I found interesting because Aquatica did so well during the pandemic in 2022. I mean, Aquatica was doing hot. Remember, it was always busy at Aquatica.
Aquatica never stopped.
Oh my god, it was always busy.
They were right there building their shit next to Velocicoaster right through the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, Aquatica was always busy. So maybe now we're kind of, we've seen that plateau already, and now we're kind of seeing it decrease again. Now that people are traveling elsewhere again.
I mean, they have pushed hard with their expenditures, so it kind of makes sense that now anytime Aquatica doesn't have a new attraction to market, they're not necessarily going to see numbers.
Good point.
But like this year, they did Tassie's Underwater Twisters. Like that's marketable.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna get people interested.
But didn't they do the
or was Coral Reef the reef slide? Was that 2023 or 2022?
I think it was 2023. Yeah, because the races was 2022. I think.
I thought that was 2021.
I think they pushed it. Anyway, it's. I mean, they're pretty consistent though. This is a good
they're
example.
Very consistent.
They're very consistent,
and they never leave a stone unturned. They love like reevaluating existing attractions. For every new slide that they add, they also like to update existing slides.
And we know that Six Flags portfolio-wide did very well, and attendance increase-wise, and the water parks are a great example. Six Flags Circle Harbor in Phoenix showed the biggest boost of any water park on this list with 41.5% increase in attendance. Six Flags Circle Harbor Arlington, right next to Over Texas, second biggest boost of any water park with a jump of 22.7%. Six Flags Circle Harbor Los Angeles next to Magic Mountain, pretty much the same park, showed the third biggest boost of any water park on the list with a jump of 10% in attendance. Needless to say, Six Flags had the best water park year. And then in general, the United Parks and Entertainment Parks had the best 2023, with Water Country, Aquatic Orlando, Aquatica San Antonio, and Adventure Island all sitting in the top 7 attended water parks, ranging from attendance 0.64 million to 1.5 million. So water park game is still incredibly strong on the SeaWorld / United Parks and Entertainment side of things, except for their attendance wasn't really moving the way that Six Flags attendance moved. So, again, Six Flags and Disney were the only portfolios in the entire North American market that had portfolio-wide increases in attendance. So good for them. And that brings me to the last section here, and that is the worldwide top 25.
Hey, before we move on, I want to say two more things about water parks.
Say it, please.
For those of you who aren't familiar, obviously Walt Disney World has two water parks, Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. They do not operate concurrently anymore. They did in the 90s and the 2000s and probably part of the 2010s.
Yeah, up until right before pandemic.
But since COVID, they have only operated one or the other, which is why Blizzard Beach is not on this list. It did not operate for much, if any, of 2023. I don't even exactly know how the rhythm has been between the two parks. It's interesting to point out, so when you look at the water park numbers, Typhoon Lagoon and Volcano Bay are neck and neck. And it's interesting when you think about what a small percentage of that is for Disney World's resort experience versus the percentage of your Universal Orlando experience being Volcano Bay. And I think that rings true. I think when people plan their Universal Orlando vacation, Volcano Bay is a much higher relative priority than Typhoon Lagoon is for the average Disney World visitor. And they're both great water parks. It's not to say that Typhoon Lagoon is bad. It's just that there's a lot going on at Disney World, whereas obviously just from looking at it, you can tell that Volcano Bay makes up a much bigger piece of the Universal Orlando pie. All this to say, I'm curious to see where that goes with Epic Universe. I would expect a drop in attendance for Volcano Bay because of Epic Universe. I'm really curious what the future holds for Disney's water parks. Do we ever expect to see them running concurrently? Because the fact that they can run a single water park and still not hit 2 million in attendance when historically the two water parks, I think, were hitting 2 million in attendance separately. Like, they were doing pretty well, if memory serves, or at least they could hit like 1.5 million. Combined, they could hit 3 million, and now we're down to just them only running one at a time and doing less than 2 million with that. So I'm curious to see what the future holds for Disney World's whole water park setup. But that's all. That's all I had to say. It's just funny not seeing, because I always think of, like, intellectually I know Blizzard Beach exists, but then...
I'm team turn Blizzard Beach into a full-time frozen
water park.
Go
all the way in. They already tested the waters.
Yeah, and like, I mean, even the ads for it now are with Olaf. I mean, like, it's not that hard to be like, oh, this used to be, a beach, but it's a summer snow day now, so now we blew...
Turn the whole fucking thing into...
So now we blew snow over it.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes complete sense with the ride story, and then, like, make it a frozen... But again, putting a whole franchise in one entire park is kind of risky. But, what does it matter? It's a freaking water park, bro. It's a water park. Like...
Yeah.
Most water parks have one consistent theme anyway.
Yeah.
So let's move into the top 25. I'm excited about this because I haven't actually looked at this yet. This is going to be a real-time response to this. I put it in the files, but I didn't actually study it because it's going to be just like a real-time little discussion. We already discussed all these parks at some point, so we won't talk about it too much. So, do you want to do the top 25?
Alexander? I'm navigating my way back to it on
on the top
device here.
Towards the top.
Is it towards is it at the... Wait. It's probably the first one at the top, huh? I'm telling you, I love the T Resorts, like, report on, like, an aesthetic. Here we go. It's right here.
You always find it.
Was that your attempt at Jeopardy? The
Jeopardy, I don't watch Jeopardy, music? So you may not judge.
That was pretty good. Okay. No, that was good. That was good. All right, yeah, so Magic Kingdom and Disneyland, obviously, number 1 and number 2. Gosh, they used to have a much bigger gap. Now they're, like, very close in attendance right now. Magic Kingdom needs to hit 20 million at some point.
They were at 20 million. It was 20 and 18.
They need to get back to it. I won't be satisfied.
Very comfortable where they're at with the money they make.
Yeah,
anyway.
Profit margins. And then Universal Studios Japan at number 3, like, not even that far away.
Yeah.
Like, just right behind, like 1.25 million behind Disneyland. And then Tokyo Disneyland, number 4 with 15.1. Shanghai Disneyland with 14. Chiang Ocean Kingdom with 12.5. And then poor Tokyo Disney Sea all the way down at 7. But like we said, they're probably...
But the highest of the second gate,
going to see a couple million... This is weird not seeing them in the top 5.
Yeah,
I mean, Tokyo Disney Sea just lived in the top 5. It'll be back. Those days will come again. Epcot, number 8. No surprise there. Disneyland Paris. I love seeing Disneyland Paris in the top 10. And then Hollywood Studios is at number 10. Hollywood Studios and Disneyland Paris, Park Disneyland have the same attendance, just about.
Similar, yeah.
Universal Studios Islands of Adventure at number 11. And California Adventure is also at 11. They literally have the same attendance of exactly 10 million. They are literally... It's funny that the little second gate wonders tied for just outside of the top 10. And then Universal Studios Florida at 13 with 9.75. Universal Studios Hollywood, almost the same, 9.66. But Hollywood is trending way up relative to Florida, so...
Yeah, that may be the highest end
good
of
for
the
her.
Period. Yeah.
Next year, Universal Studios Hollywood might have the highest attendance of any Universal park in the country.
We'll see, because that new roller coaster opens on 26, so...
Yeah, but the numbers, the trend looks great. It's not like the Florida parks have done anything.
I think this was due to Nintendo World, but maybe it may plateau a bit again. Initial rush.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Universal Studios Beijing with their 109% increase of attendance.
Sitting at
9 million. I love that for her at 9 million. Animal Kingdom at 8.77. Hong Kong Disneyland at a respectable 6.4. That's a big drop though now. Like everything was kind of really close to each other. Not a lot of like huge drops.
Now moving into tier 2.
There's a definite like lurch. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that The difference between Animal Kingdom's attendance and Hong Kong Disney's attendance is where you get.
And this is not like
the
tier 1 or
second
tier
tier.
2 as in like quality at all. Because
Just
there's
figures.
some lists, there's
Just
some
numbers,
just
yeah.
numbers wise. Like there's a big difference. And now the next group is very tight together. Like
Because
very
like
tight.
Hong Kong Disneyland 6.4, they're fighting for that 6.4.
Yeah, and
Hong
now-
Kong Disneyland is out for blood. For
But
that
then you're looking at
6.4.
the numbers that are all within like a 1.4
Yeah, and
million
now
range.
they get very tight.
Yeah,
again.
like-
6 on the nose for Europa. 5.88 for Everland. Like I said, I mean, I can remember Everland being in the top 10. It's kind of sad now that it's at number 19, but that's what happens when you like build one roller coaster every 20 years.
5.7 for Walt
Walt
Disney
Disney
Studios.
It's fine. She's
5.6 for Charmlong Paradise.
Charmlong.
5.6-ish for the
Efteling.
Efteling. 5.2 for Lottie World. 4.9 for Zygong, Fanta Wild, Dino Kingdom. So happy for them.
Yeah.
And then Myeongdong, Fanta Wild, Oriental Heritage at 4.6. The fact that we now have
Those two parks in the top
two
25.
Fanta Wilds in the top 25. I mean, kudos
That's
to Fanta
crazy.
Wild.
Yeah.
That group's did
These
it.
are literally two parks that like we.
Ooh, now I really want to do a whole
even,
Fanta
like-
Wild trip around
yeah,
China. I want to do
yeah.
all of them. Get
Like
all the
I haven't even
Cocomas.
heard of this Dino Kingdom park. And
That's it's a unique concept for them, yeah.
the Oriental Heritage Park. I don't even know. I mean, because there's so
It's
many
the
of them.
same,
I couldn't
yeah.
tell you which one is which.
Oh, this is the one in Myeongdong.
Yeah, well, obviously.
But overall attendance increase for the entire industry that is listed in the top 25 parks is a cute little 23%. Overall attendance at the top 25 amusement parks worldwide is 244.6 million, which is a significant increase of about 45 million from the year prior when it was below 200 million for the top 25 parks. So all in all, very exciting stuff. And I was gonna lump in some 2024, stuff that we enjoyed about 2024, the parks that we did, shifting gears already to stay on track. Let's just not dive too much into 2024, but what, babe, was your favorite memory of our travels of 2024? What stood out to you?
Okay, top like a top 3, just like off the top of
of your
my head. Dragon Valley, Nanjing.
Ah,
Riding the shockwave there,
yeah, that's
crashing your Singapore layover, and
yeah.
finally getting the last of the like Universal parks. Now having all of Universal and all Disney parks, and Winter Wonderland with you. That was super cute.
Yeah.
I'd wanted to do that for so long, and it was so perfect. It was so satisfying
Oh, we did so many travels
to do that. We did
this
so many
year.
great things, but those are the 3 that are like really rushing to the surface.
I
for
mean,
me.
I got Gravity Max this year, and I really enjoyed that because
Yes.
I had to go on a little adventure. It was a layover, and then I don't even know if we ever did end up doing an episode about this. I don't think we did, but I ended up jumping on a train early in the morning to Taichung, and then did that park, and then took another really long taxi through the forest and the jungle
The
to
jungle.
to
It's like Donkey
John
Kong
Fushan.
country
So
out there.
that was a really memorable moment for me. Other than that, of course, Dragon Valley. I will say Universal Beijing, and I'm not saying because I love Universal Beijing because we have a whole episode on that, but because the dark ride there, the Jurassic World Adventure, just really stuck with me. I think it's
Totally.
a phenomenal dark
Yeah.
ride. Rest of the park, I really don't wish to go back anytime soon.
Yeah.
But that dark ride just really has
That
me.
was one of the best new ride
Yeah,
experiences
and it was
of the year.
our
for
trip
us.
to Beijing. That trip was really
That
fun.
was a great trip.
We did the Great Wall.
Summer Palace.
Summer Palace was phenomenal. We did Universal Beijing. We did
Happy Valley was
Valley
great.
Beijing, and we were only there for a few days, and we had such a ball. So
Fabulous time.
that is
Yeah,
really
that
high
was a
on
good
there
one.
for me. We did Jincheng Park and all the kind of stuff. So that's on that. We did a lot more travel. I always like Disneyland Paris, but I think those are like the China highlights, the Taiwan
Yeah,
highlights. Those are
all of
kind
our
of
Western
there.
China stuff. From our
Yeah,
various trips.
Chongqing. What I mean, a lot of what we did this year really wasn't even theme parks. That was highlights
Yeah.
for me. It was just crazy, guys. I
Buddhas of
know,
Lashan,
not a theme park podcast.
Terracotta Warriors in Xi'an. Like
Yeah.
our Western China exploits are like
So
just
cool.
were
Yeah,
just thing of
Lashan
dreams.
is probably the coolest thing ever done in my
Thing
life.
of dreams.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, that is our whole recap of 2024. Not too much to talk about here because we already spent most of it talking about 2023, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And actually, this will not be our last episode because we decided to look into some of the cool stuff happening in 2025. Turns out there's a lot of cool
It's a
stuff
lot.
happening in 2025.
It's over one. I put the list together and it
Yeah.
was like, oh god, this is.
For
gonna be
a second,
long
we were considering combining them both
episode.
into
Yeah,
one.
originally it was
episode.
gonna be one episode.
That's not happening.
Yeah, we're learning. We're figuring out how long it takes for us
And
to
the fact
do
that
stuff.
we're at about an hour and 30 right now is perfect timing, and it's perfect to say that we have another episode coming this season, and then it's over for the season. So this is going to be launched on Christmas. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Happy holidays to everyone. And we hope you had a magical year. We hope you have a magical year next year and you stick with us. And then on New Year's Day, our last episode of this season will drop. It's going to be everything of 2025. Make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, preferably. Give us 5 stars. We give you a shout out for your review. Leave us 5 stars on Spotify or anywhere you're listening. You know, Pocket Cast. I mean, people have been leaving us reviews all over these platforms. I didn't know existed, but we're on them because we're on most platforms. Make sure to follow us on social media. We've been posting so many reels lately. We've been posting all these photo carousels, are in our like little Instagram and Facebook renaissance. Do all that. We appreciate you listening as always. I know I've been talking about this episode, so hopefully you don't hate me. And we will catch you guys on the next episode, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.